How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Perfect Reload Weekly, where we take a look back at the week in video game news. My name is Steve, and I am joined, as always, by Christian Slater. Christian, how you doing this week? You seem to be in somewhat decent spirits lately.
Hey, who's that weird safari-looking guy that comes around the house every day about 1 in the afternoon? He's definitely up to something. Don't worry, though. I ordered a blackjack from Sri Lankan eBay, and I'll be waiting in the bush for him.
Do you mean the mailman? Safari. I mean, the old mailman used to wear a safari hat. That was like 2 years ago, man. You weren't even around back then. What are you time traveling? Oh, this show's gonna go all multiverse. That's how we're gonna win them back. That's how we're gonna get all the money. Welcome to the multiverse now. So this is a show about video games, and video games we will talk about, as we had a few come out this week, and then a little bit of a continuing adventure, I guess. I suppose we'll start with the biggest release of the week, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, reboot, I don't know, it's so weird because they're just the same name. The only thing that separates these is the fact that, they're using Roman numerals with these, and not American numbers. They did the thing again this year where if you bought the super expensive version, you can get the campaign a week early and also get the battle pass included. I did that last year mostly for the battle pass because I knew I was going to be fairly invested in Call of Duty. I decided not to do that this year, and maybe I'll pick up the battle pass at some point. I don't know, because the way this game is right now is just so confusing. We'll get into that in a moment. But the early impressions started to come out, and then outlets decided to review the campaign separately from the multiplayer since it was available. And I think probably the first shot fired, no pun intended, was IGN giving it a 4 out of 10. People were just kind of like dragging it through the coals, and it sounds like it's not good. I haven't touched it, and honestly, after hearing about the structure of it, where it's doesn't necessarily feel like a traditional like cinematic level Call of Duty campaign, because I usually at least play through half of the campaign in a Call of Duty game. Sometimes I finish it, all the way. Last year's game, I just kind of got stuck on, and then by the time I got to that point where I was stuck, I think the multiplayer was due out in like a day, and I just started playing that and never really looked back. But I finished the 2019 one. I finished, and did Vanguard have a campaign? I think I maybe played some of that. I skipped Cold War, but I played like the World War II one and all that. Back in the day, I played the original Modern Warfare 2 one and stuff like that. But it sounds like this is just not good, and the sentiment going around was that this game just feels like DLC, and that's hard to disagree with when this game just kind of is tied to, oh, thank you, my dog's bringing me a toy. This game is just tied to Modern Warfare 2, last year's game, in such a weird way. They use like the same installer. When I put the disc in for Modern Warfare 3 to install it, I had to install Modern Warfare 2. I had Modern Warfare 2 purchased digitally, but I had since deleted it to free up some hard drive space because I stopped playing the game. I didn't have a reason to keep it around, and I had to reinstall it. Now I got to choose what I reinstalled. So I did like the bare minimum, like the multiplayer stuff, because I think you have to install that. Thank you. Yes. So it's just like this weird feeling that this game just kind of shouldn't exist. And I think it's because, originally the plan with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 last year was that it was going to last another year. Like, we wouldn't have gotten this release this year. They were just going to keep things going. And, the rumor was like, oh, we're going to get all these remastered Modern Warfare 2 maps, the original Modern Warfare 2, which would make sense if you're doing the reboot of Modern Warfare 2. But instead we're getting them as part of Modern Warfare 3, which is just very bizarre. It's great that they're in there, but it is a little strange that that's all that's in there. There aren't, I have not played any original maps. It's just the Modern Warfare 2 maps. So they didn't even bother designing new maps for this game. I'm sure there'll be some down the line as DLC, but off the gate there aren't any. So it just is a weird thing for a $70 game. Like, it's a $70 piece of DLC. Has this like half-baked single player component, and then the multiplayer is good. They made some good gameplay changes. I like the way the game plays. It's a little bit slower. At least that's the way it feels to me. Is it's a little bit slower. Definitely a slower time to kill, which I'm getting used to. But it's it seems kind of unnecessary to release this as its own game. It feels more like this could have just been like, hey, we aren't going to do it, but we are going to give you all these maps. We're going to make gameplay changes, and we're going to do a new single player kind of standalone thing that's a couple hours long. It's not a full length thing, but it's just this thing. And here's a $30 expansion pack for Modern Warfare 2. Like, it feels like that's what it should have been. It feels like they're just, they're trying to put the square peg into a round hole. It just doesn't work. So it's a little odd, but getting past all that in terms of like how well it actually plays, I am enjoying it. I haven't spent a ton of time with it. The day it came out, I only got to play, I don't know, 3, 4, maybe 5 rounds. I just had other stuff going on that day. And then on Saturday, we streamed the game. The stream went well-ish, but it did kind of get screwed up, unfortunately. Thankfully, there was a very kind viewer in the chat that let me know that there were some issues.
Good job having half your stream muted for 45 minutes. I don't know why you even bother getting off the floor in the morning these days.
Yeah, I don't know why I bother either. But yeah, half the stream is just my voice and there's no game audio. That's on me. I know exactly what happened as soon as somebody brought it up in the chat. That I'm so used to recording games lately for the pre-recorded stuff on the channel that I didn't switch the game audio to be on the same channel as my voice, because you have to have it. There's no multi-channel stuff in OBS I'm aware of for streaming, so had to fix that. But at least the second half, we're actually starting to kind of find a rhythm where I got somewhat decent at the game. At least that has full audio, so that's there on the channel if you want to check that out. The plan is to stream it again this week. Let me look. I wrote down, there's actually going to be a somewhat busy week on the channel this week. I think we're going to be streaming it again. Yeah, we're going to be streaming it again on Wednesday, I think. So if you want to check that out, and I'm going to try and find some time to play it my personal time this week leading up to that. Because I especially want to get to level 25 with the armory. I still am not quite sure what the armory is. I know it's like the big point of contention right now for people playing the multiplayer, that it's just kind of a weird way of unlocking things. And it doesn't become active until you hit level 25. The one nice benefit, I guess, of this being tied to Modern Warfare 2 is that not only do all your Modern Warfare 2 weapons, at least for the most part, I think all of them, all mine seem to be there, the ones I remember using, carried over along with their camo and all that stuff, is that if you had unused double XP tokens, those carried over as well. So I have like several hours of double XP that I can just kind of pop and level up fairly quickly. So that's probably gonna be the plan going forward, to try and get into this game and see how it's going, because I'm not super thrilled with kind of the starting weapons that you got in this year's game. I thought last year's game, I think they gave you like the equivalent of the M16 to start off with, and that was actually pretty solid and kind of got me going. I'm not really big into the assault rifle that they have, so I ended up having to switch back to one of my Modern Warfare 2 classes, but the problem with that is like the weapon XP obviously isn't applying to the new weapons, and it's not really applying to Modern Warfare 2 weapons because these are weapons that I fully leveled up. So it's just kind of like a little bit of a waste there. I feel like I should be relying on the new weapons, but I'm not super big into the new weapons. So as you level up, you unlock new weapons, and I'll kind of find what I'm working with well. I'm glad that hardcore mode is back in from the start. I haven't got a chance to play any of it yet. That was like my biggest gripe when last year's game came out, is hardcore mode wasn't in. They had that like half-step mode that just nobody really wanted. So I'm going to give that a go. Try and play some of that this week. Maybe we'll do that on stream. Maybe we'll do a hardcore stream or something like that. It's just one of those things where it's, I don't have much to say because there's not much there. these are old maps that we've all played a million times. There are some new mechanics, I guess, to a degree. There's that tactical stance. It's like halfway between hip fire and not, but to me, it just feels like hip fire, and I don't particularly care for it all that much. It seems wildly inaccurate, but a lot of these daily challenges are tied to getting kills using it, and some of the camo challenges are tied to getting kills using it, and it's like, well, I guess I'm just gonna have to kind of suffer through this, and I feel like, with last year's game, one of the big complaints was how you had to do all these long shot challenges, and that can get a little tricky with shotguns and pistols and things like that. And now to have this tactical thing kind of be the replacement for that, I don't know if it's great. Maybe I'll find a way to work it well. I'll see if maybe you can use it with pistols, and maybe it would feel better with pistols. I'm not sure. But I think this game is just kind of like a wait and see kind of thing. I think I just need more time with it. I need to figure out kind of the intricacies once we get that armory thing opened up and have a little bit more time to dig into the systems that are there and the different things you can unlock and all that stuff. So I think that, once I get there and I get my footing and I start playing well and the maps start coming back to me, because some of these maps, I haven't played the original Modern Warfare 2 since the first, year and a half that it was available. It's not a game that I kept grinding over and over and over again. And I know some of these maps, I think a couple maybe appeared in some other Call of Duty games, but I dropped out of Call of Duty for a really long time. I genuinely didn't really pick it back up until World War II came out. And then I've played all of them since then, except for Cold War. So maybe some of those were there, but some of these people are just like, these are the maps that they've been playing for legitimately like the past decade. So it's tough. There's times where I feel like, man, I am just getting utterly destroyed. I feel completely helpless in this game. And I think about like how good I was at last year's game. And it's like, man, last year's game, like I was in the top 3 on my team pretty much every game that I played. There are some games where I just like completely dominated and would go on huge kill streaks. And, obviously it's going to take some time to get there, but I feel like I am starting off in a worse spot with this game than I did last year. So I don't know. We'll see how it all shakes out, but I am optimistic after last year's game where I thought it started off really strong and then they really dropped the ball with new maps, and it just I was willing to put up with a lot of the negatives of the map selection last year with the hopes of like, hey, those Modern Warfare 2 maps are going to come. Those Modern Warfare 2 maps are going to come, and then they never do. And it ended up in a situation where I was just playing the Shipment 24/7 playlist nonstop to get my camo grind. And it became to the point where that's all I did. If the game was currently not running a Shipment playlist, I just didn't play the game because I really just didn't want to play any of the base maps that were in the game at the time. I just didn't like them. I didn't think any of them were creative. I didn't think any of them were interesting. They didn't really bring anything new to the table. They all felt very generic. There's not one. I certainly remember the maps in the game because it wasn't that long ago that I played the game. But none of those maps are memorable. None of those maps are going to become like, oh man, God, in 5-10 years, I wish they would put such and such map, back into Call of Duty. Remember how good that was in Modern Warfare 2? Like that's just not going to happen. But, we'll see what happens. Like I said, stream's up if you can put up with the audio issue for the first half on the channel. Like I said, plan is to stream again on Wednesday, so maybe I'll have additional thoughts there, but either negative or positive, or maybe a little mix of both. All right, moving on to our next game, another game that we have video up on the channel of, Like a Dragon Gaiden, Man Who Erased His Name, came out just a few days ago, available on multiple systems, even last-gen systems, but it's also available on PC Game Pass and Xbox Game Pass. So pretty easily accessible to get into this game. This is a direct sequel to Yakuza 6, brings back Kiryu, our protagonist from the Yakuza games, and this takes place both as a prequel and, in a way, happening during the events of, well, it's not Yakuza anymore, Like a Dragon 7. I got to the point at the end of... when I cut off the video that's up, I let that next cutscene play out for a little bit just to kind of make sure I could save my game. And they mentioned that, like, oh, you just missed Ichiban, and, the main character from Like a Dragon 7. Because we get to that homeless camp, and I was like, man, this looks exactly like the one from Like a Dragon 7, and it is. So it's like, okay, so it's kind of taking place, during. But I think the one downside to this game is if you're not a long-standing Yakuza fan, like I've always enjoyed the games, but I never finished any of them, so I don't have all the lore in my head and, like a strong attachment to the characters. They're really banking on you knowing that stuff. There is a recap video in the beginning that kind of shows the end of Yakuza 6, but you're not going to have a ton of context for what's going on. So I highly suggest finding some type of lore recap or something. I'm sure there's YouTube videos out there, a written article somewhere that you can kind of digest and get a better idea of what's going on. So I felt, a little lost. I'll be honest, the beat 'em up style of the Yakuza game was never my favorite. If you follow this channel for long enough, you know that I love traditional beat 'em ups, the classic beat 'em ups, Final Fight, stuff like that. But these 3D ones that kind of took precedence, I would say probably the PS1 era is when they kind of really started coming together. I remember like Fighting Force. I actually had pretty fond memories of Fighting Force. But I just never got into the Yakuza games. There's something about them I just didn't really like the way they played. I always felt like I was fighting with the camera. A lot of times I felt like I just wasn't powerful enough. And those same complaints are ringing true for this game as well. There's an upgrade system, so you can get more powerful, and I put some points into it during that video. And we were beating enemies quicker, once that happened. So you do get, you spend the money to get the upgrade, and the upgrade does pay off. So at least that's pretty satisfying. I honestly don't know how much more I'm going to play of the game, just because it's not at the top of my priority list. There's a ton of other stuff that's out that I need to check out. This is actually, this week is, I think, the last week for a big release that interests me. I think House Flipper 2 is due out next month. And I think that's like the only December release that I am currently aware of that is something I would be interested in checking out. So I am pretty much in cleanup time, because I only have a few more weeks before we're getting into Game of the Year stuff. So I got to try and get through as much as I can, and I just don't know if this game is going to make the cut. I got to play more Modern Warfare 3, more Alan Wake 2. There's stuff that I need to get back around to that came out earlier in the year, like Sea of Stars. I got to dive into RoboCop Rogue City. I've been putting that off, so there's just a little bit too much to catch up on for Like a Dragon Gaiden, a game that I don't super necessarily enjoy playing to kind of take precedence over other stuff. But I think if you are a Yakuza fan, if you liked those games, I think you will like this one. It looks very nice. Some of the texture work is spot on. I think a lot of the face textures are really, really nice. Some of the environmental stuff is not as great. I think some of the cars look a little rough. Like, it almost looks like the cars are from like a generation behind, but then the faces look like, oh my God, this is like, look at the pores on his face. Like, this is incredible. So there's a little bit of an odd juxtaposition between the two, but I think if you like those games, and maybe even if you didn't like the switch to the RPG stylings of the last game, the last mainline game, maybe this will kind of draw you back in, because they're not stopping with the RPG style. It's going to be a turn-based RPG with Infinite Wealth, which is coming out not too long from now. I think a couple of months. So that's kind of what I'm more excited about. I'm more excited about Infinite Wealth than I am Man Who Erased His Name. But I think, I think it's got merit for people that are interested in kind of bringing back a classic character. And I think you'll have fun with it. And especially with the fact that it's on Game Pass, it makes it kind of an easy entryway into checking it out.
Look, I get you aren't digging the game so much, but this is my fantasy, man. Leopard print dragon shirts, leather pants, missing fingers, karate kicks. What's not to love? I think I'll have to see if there's a local Yakuza chapter around here that I can go hang out with.
Yeah, I'm sure there's definitely a local upstate New York Yakuza chapter. 100%, man. They meet in the middle of Lake Ontario. You should swim out there, and somebody will pick you up. Definitely, 100%. Last up on my list, I wish I had more to say about this. I really wanted to try and find some time this weekend to play it, but it just didn't happen. But I did make more progress. Alan Wake 2, I got through the first boss fight. I am getting ready to start the next chapter where I actually start playing as Alan Wake, and I've heard that that's where some really crazy stuff starts to happen. So I'm going to really try and find some time this week to dive into that, because it's that game where I keep thinking about it. I keep thinking about, like, you got to take some time to play this. You got to take some time to play this, and I just haven't gotten around to doing it this week. So I think this coming week, I think I am going to carve out some time to actually get through at least another chapter or two, because I want to play as much of this as I possibly can, because I am really, really enjoying it. It's running so rough on my PC. I keep knocking the settings down. I finally turned off ray tracing, and it's still just hitching up a lot, and just a lot of issues, and it's a little bit of a struggle to get through it, but I think it's worth it to get through it. I definitely kind of wish, like, maybe it would have been nicer if I had gone for the console version, but I had a perverse curiosity to see if it was going to run on my machine, so that's my issue. But that's pretty much it for all I played this week, so we will be back in just a moment with the news. All right, we are back with the news, and actually, it's a pretty big story to start things off. We finally have official word on the next Grand Theft Auto game. This has been a long time coming. The game has gone through several leaks. Plenty of people thinking that they're playing Sherlock Holmes and figuring out clues within GTA Online or Twitter posts or whatever it may be to Nostradamus the release date of this game. But it looks like we're finally going to have some information. I don't think we're going to have a release date, but we are getting the first trailer for the game. So this is a statement from Rockstar Games co-founder Sam Houser. Next month marks the 25th anniversary of Rockstar Games. Thanks to the incredible support of our players worldwide, we have had the opportunity to create games we are truly passionate about. Without you, none of this would be possible. We are so grateful to all of you for sharing this journey with us. In 1998, Rockstar Games was founded on the idea that video games could come to be as essential to our culture as any other form of entertainment, and we hope that we have created games you love in our efforts to be part of that evolution. We are very excited to let you know that in early December, we will release the first trailer for the next Grand Theft Auto. We look forward to many more years of sharing these experiences with you. So a lot of people have been picking up on the fact that he doesn't say Grand Theft Auto 6. He says the next Grand Theft Auto. I think it's Grand Theft Auto 6. I don't think that this is going to be something else. There were too many leaks to show that they were working on a traditional Grand Theft Auto game. So I don't think that this is going to be something different. So I think it was just his particular choice of phrasing there. I don't think there's really too much to read into with that. But the biggest question, really, well, I guess there's two, is that, what is this game going to be like in the wake of Grand Theft Auto Online, which is an absolute juggernaut? It's still making millions and millions of dollars on a daily basis. It's huge. How are they going to incorporate that? Personally, I don't care, because I only want the single player Grand Theft Auto experience. That's my bread and butter. Grand Theft Auto is my favorite franchise of all time. It's now that Spider-Man 2 is out, this is my next most anticipated game, and it's really honestly my overarching most anticipated game. But it didn't have any concrete details. There's no release date or anything like that. So I am obviously very eager to play this game. I've gone all out on Grand Theft Auto games in my lifetime. I remember getting the very first one on PS1. The argument I had to have with my parents because it had a parental advisory sticker on it. I remember my dad taking me to the Vice City. It wasn't a midnight release. They did it at like 9 a.m. the next morning when the store opened. I remember getting that. I remember going to get San Andreas. I remember going to the midnight for 4. I remember getting the super duper collector's edition for 4, and going all out on 5. I bought 5 on the PS3, the Xbox, and the PS4, and the Xbox X or Xbox One, and I have it on PlayStation 5, I think. Like, I have bought that game so many times. In terms of like big narrative games, it's the game that I've played through the most times. I've played through that story like several times. I really enjoy that story. I know a lot of people don't, but I really like the characters that they created in Grand Theft Auto 5. Obviously, the writing is very dated and, it's very juvenile. That's kind of what that stuff is. But the writing to me is the biggest question. So since the release of Grand Theft Auto 5, and to be honest, the release of Red Dead Redemption 2, they lost some really big creative forces in that company. The one that mostly gets talked about is the fact that Dan Houser is gone, who was the lead writer on Grand Theft Auto 5, and I believe he was also the lead writer on Red Dead Redemption 2. He was the lead writer on Red Dead Redemption 1, and he was the lead writer on Red Dead Redemption 2, so he is gone. The next in line after him was Michael Unsworth. He was the co-writer for those games. He is gone. Laszlo Jones was one of the lead writers on Grand Theft Auto and a co-writer on Red Dead Redemption. He is gone. The only one left is Rupert Humphreys, who was a co or lead writer, kind of depending on how they work their credits out. He is still there. So I imagine it's going to be him leading the charge on this. What I would really like to see for Grand Theft Auto 6 is I'd like to see less political stuff in it. Not because like keep politics out of my games or whatever. Like, they can satirize politics all they want, but I think by and large these days, with how saturated politics are in this country, in America, it's inescapable because this country is really going through some rough spots. I think people look to video games for an escape from this stuff because they are bombarded with it in all other aspects of their life. It's constantly drip fed to you on social media. It's on, broadcast television. It's everywhere. And so I would really like to see them take a back seat away from that. If you want to make a couple of jokes on the radio stations, that's fine, like whatever. But I think we need to get away from a lot of that kind of societal satirization that the series is best known for. Obviously, let's have some of it. The game should be funny. It should have humor. That's a calling card of all Red Dead, of all Rockstar games. Even Red Dead 2, which is a super serious story, it's very depressing at times, has a lot of humor in it. So don't take that away. Don't get rid of that. But I'd like to see them make a pretty big shift. So the rumors going around the game from the leaks that came out, it's going to be 2 playable characters as opposed to the 3 that you had in Grand Theft Auto 5. 1 male character, 1 female character. It'll be the first time there's a female playable character in the Grand Theft Auto series. Apparently, it is taking place in Vice City, and it is supposed to be a Bonnie and Clyde situation where I guess they are on the run robbing people. So there's kind of your crime aspect to it, which I'm all in for. I think that's a cool concept that I think that they could do a lot with. So I am excited. I think that some people are maybe getting their hopes up a little bit with this trailer. That this trailer is going to be a big deep dive into the game. I don't think that that's going to be the case. I think you look at the way they did the trailers for Grand Theft Auto 5, and there's your template. I think it's going to give an overview. We'll get the final name of the game. I'm sure it's just going to be Grand Theft Auto 6. I'm sure we'll get a look at the playable characters, or they could not do that. They did that thing for Grand Theft Auto 5. I think originally where it was like that travel. It was like almost like a travel package thing where it kind of looked at like, oh, look at the Gulf in Los Santos and the beach and all that stuff. It's possible that they do something like that and we don't see any of the characters. I think that this game is. I think the unfortunate timeline that this game is going to go down is I think that we're going to get this trailer in December. I think we'll get another trailer in the spring, summerish. I know a lot of people are like, oh, this will be at Summer Game Fest next year and stuff like that. Grand Theft Auto has never done that. The Rockstar got burned at like the first E3 they tried to go to and then just abandoned E3 after that. They always did like the magazine covers. Like they would do like the exclusive reveal in Game Informer and stuff like that. And nowadays, they can just use YouTube. They don't need to attach their coat to, or put their hat on somebody else. They can kind of do their own thing. So I think we're going to get this trailer next month. We'll get another one. That next one will have the release date. That release date will then get pushed back. And I think that they're going to announce that this will be a holiday game 2024. And then I think ultimately it ends up coming out spring or summer of 2025. So I think that's still a little ways away. I would certainly love to have it out next year. Absolutely. But I think that's probably going to end up getting delayed. Because if I remember right, GTA 5 had a couple of delays, right? I think it did. Let me see here. Yes. Okay. Yes. Yep. There were delays for GTA 5. That's what I thought. Yeah. There you go. So here's the timeline for GTA 5. GTA 5 was announced at the end of October in 2011. They released the first trailer a week later. The game did not come out until September 17th, 2013, so almost 2 years later. So I would say that it's probably a year and a half to 2 years for Grand Theft Auto 6 from when we hear about it next year or next month. Probably likely. This could end up being a 2026 game. That's entirely possible. So I hope it's not the case. They've been working on it, obviously, for a little while now. Red Dead 2 came out, 2018? So that's, 5 years now that they've probably been working at a decent clip on this game. Maybe 4 years full-time with all the other stuff they had to juggle with Red Dead Online, GTA Online, all that stuff. We'll kind of wait and see on that. But I would say that it's going to be more of a teaser than like a big deal trailer. But they could... Hopefully I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong on that. That would be fantastic because I want as much of this game as soon as possible. I'm very, very much looking forward to it. So of course we'll talk about it when the trailer comes out. My birthday is in the beginning of December. Maybe it'll be a nice birthday present for me.
Spoiler alert, I got a role in the game. I play the super critical role of Pedestrian Voices number 65 through 83.
Yeah, I doubt they would even give you that. That's no way that happened. All right, next up. Geez, sorry. I think I'm getting a cold. Speaking of franchises near and dear to my heart, Bioware continues to talk about Mass Effect, the next Mass Effect one. They should probably shut up about it because it's not coming out anytime soon. It's just getting people's hopes up, and then it's causing people to complain about it on the internet. Because we have no idea when Dragon Age is coming out, and this game isn't going to be out until several years after Dragon Age comes out. This is like a 2030 game. But N7 Day happened. It's November 7th for you Mass Effect nerds. And they put out a trailer of what appears to be a woman-ish figure, female-like figure, in a sleek cyberpunk-looking coat with the N7 logo emblazed upon it. And there seems to be a tie-in with the Andromeda stuff. So it's looking like this game actually might be taking place during the Andromeda timeline. But there's genuinely not much to say about this. It was weird because people were talking about this like, oh, this is the most information we've got about this. I don't know. I think the previous teaser trailer actually showing Liara, a character that we all know, I think that's way more information about where they're going with this game. That shows that they are legitimately tying it into the original trilogy. It was they essentially kill Shepard off, at the end of Mass Effect 3. There's 3 different possible outcomes to that game, so which one becomes canon? I think the only one that makes sense is the Destroy one because you see that he could potentially be alive. His hand comes up through some rubble. But that would be a really weird situation because it destroys all the Mass Effect relays and all the AI and Geth and all that stuff. But who knows? Maybe that's what they're going to end up doing. But I think that this is... You think it's early to get excited about Grand Theft Auto 6, a game that will actually come out within the next couple of years. I think Mass Effect, whatever they call this, I don't think it's going to be called Mass Effect 4. I think that would be kind of weird if they're going to tie it in with Andromeda. I think they're going to maybe start a new kind of franchise with this if it goes well. I think that's probably their plan. I think they want to do another trilogy. I think BioWare needs a win. It's been a long time since BioWare had a win. So I think that's kind of their thing. And the pressure is going to be even further on, or even more on them if Dragon Age doesn't deliver, because a lot of people didn't really like Inquisition. I thought Inquisition was fine, but to be honest, I wasn't a huge Dragon Dragon Age fan. I liked the first game. I didn't particularly like the second game all that much. Inquisition was fine. I played, I don't know, a dozen hours, 15 hours, something like that of Inquisition. You could very much see that was the skeleton of what was to become Mass Effect Andromeda. Andromeda, I got through. I did finish it because I love Mass Effect so much that I felt like I had to. I felt like I was like contractually obligated to get through that game. It wasn't a fun experience or a great experience by any stretch. There's a handful of moments that I remember from that game, but mostly they were just like the repeating puzzle type thing, or the repeating rooms to kind of collect the things you needed to collect in order to to satisfy the story requirements. But yeah, I don't know. I think people need to temper their expectations on this. It's going to be quite some time before we get any serious news about Mass Effect. All right. Next up, some sad news, unfortunately. So A Night in the Woods was a game that came out a few years ago in 2017. A lot of people really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I liked it. And that company, the Glory Society, who made that game, announced their next game not too long ago. It was called Revenant Hill, and they have unfortunately announced on November 7th that they are canceling the game. So, writer and artist Scott Benson tweeted, over the past 12 months or so, I got very sick and it didn't go away. Eventually, I was diagnosed with severe heart failure, most likely from a virus. It will continue to greatly limit me for the foreseeable future, and as such, I have had to stop working in the manner I once did. Benson and his partner Bethany Hockenberry co-wrote Night in the Woods together and went on to form the collective game studio, the Glory Society, with musician Ren Farron. This is all coming from Ethan Gatch's article on Kotaku. That's what I'm reading from. And then stuff kind of started to go wrong. I believe that Ren Farron ended up getting into some trouble and had to leave. Let me double check that before I drag his name through the mud. It must have been somebody else. I'm not seeing anything when I Google his name, but I think somebody involved in the game got into some bad stuff. But it says, given the reality of schedules, budgets, and the fraught task of reworking the whole project within those parameters, the team has amicably decided to suspend operations. That was an announcement from the studio. For all intents and purposes, this is the end of the development of Revenant Hill. So it sounds like the collective itself is also kind of dissolving and moving on in its own. Benson and Hockenberry, I said partner, they're a married couple, so she is obviously very personally involved in what's going on with her husband being sick. So it's not a great situation. I was very excited to see what they could come up with. I thought the trailer, I'll be honest, the trailer initially looked a little bit too much like A Night in the Woods, to the point where a lot of people thought that it was a sequel. On the gaming podcast I listened to this week that were covering the story, last week they were covering the story, they were all saying like, oh yeah, it's a sequel to A Night in the Woods, and then they would have to correct themselves. Like, a lot of people really genuinely thought that it was, but it was its own thing. So I hope nothing but the best for Benson. I hope he gets better, because it's no fun being that sick. It is no fun being that chronically ill, and it is certainly no fun being that close to potentially losing your life. So there are much more important things going on in his life than working on this game. So hopefully he makes a full recovery and we can see what he and his wife can put out next, because they have some serious talent over there. They told a really great story with A Night in the Woods, and I would have really enjoyed seeing what they did next. Alrighty. Nintendo, of course, does not want to be left out, so they have dropped the bombshell that they are announcing their next movie. So the Super Mario Bros. Movie was a huge hit, made a shitload of money. I think it was $1 billion movie at the box office. I went to go see it. It dragged me out of the house. I even went to the movie theater to go and see it. And they announced Zelda would be their next film, and I kind of thought, aside from a Mario sequel, which I'm sure is coming, that was probably the next logical step for them to do. They would do, probably the Mario sequel with Illumination, then have Illumination fire up work on Legend of Zelda movie. But that's not what's happening. They are making a live action Legend of Zelda. and it's going to be made by some interesting people. Avi Arad, the chairman of Arad Productions Incorporated, who is a big-time movie producer, and they actually have their director already, which is Wes Ball. Wes Ball is an interesting choice. He did the Maze Runner movies, which weren't super well received. They made money. They ended up making 3 of them. And then his next movie is not out yet. He has been tapped to do the next Planet of the Apes movie, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which is coming out next year. And then now he will be doing this Legend of Zelda movie. Avi Arad, he has produced a ton of stuff, a lot of superhero stuff. He did Daredevil, Hulk, Punisher, Spider-Man 2, Elektra, Fantastic Four, X-Men The Last Stand, Ghost Rider, Spider-Man 3, kind of like a lot of the pre-MCU stuff. He's also does a lot of work for Sony, because this is a joint production between Sony Pictures and Nintendo. So he has done Uncharted, Morbius, Into the Spider-Verse, and Across the Spider-Verse. He's doing the upcoming Kraven the Hunter movie. He did Venom, etc., all that kind of stuff. So it is a joint production between Sony and Nintendo. No other information really about it beyond that. Obviously, people are running rampant with rumors. Machine Gun Kelly, obviously the top choice to play Link in this game. I don't really see anyone else having the acting chops to pull it off. He did so well playing Tommy Lee in The Dirt, which I'm making jokes, but he actually thought he was actually pretty good in The Dirt as Tommy Lee. He can actually act a little bit, but no way in hell is he going to be involved with this picture, I don't think, unless he gets some type of producer credit on it. I think live action is a really, really bizarre choice, because no matter what they do, no matter how high budget they make this, it's just going to look like a bunch of people running around in cosplay. It's just the way it is. Zelda is such a cartoony, kind of over the top game that the only way that you really could do it is like high quality animation, like they did with the Super Mario Brothers movie. And they could have certainly made it a little bit more adult. I think it would make sense for them to maybe try and do this as PG-13. I don't think that'll ever happen with a Nintendo property, though. So I think that it's going to, I don't want to say neuter it in some way, but I'm curious how much violence. It is a violent game. He is attacking things with a sword. How much are they going to be able to get away with in a live action setting that's not going to push this game to a PG-13 release by the MPAA? So I don't know. I just think it's a really bizarre choice to go forward with this, and also like a bizarre choice of director. It's like not the guy that I would really think of, and maybe he's like a super huge Zelda fan, and that was the way he got into it. He obviously had some type of pull with stuff, because he got those Planet of the Apes movies, the newer run of them, have done really well, enough that they've done several sequels to them. I personally don't like them. I don't like monkeys. I think monkeys are always trying to do too much. I don't like when monkeys are trying to do too much. They're always trying to learn new things. And I think that there comes to a point where you just have to say stop. So it just kind of rubs me the wrong way. So I haven't seen any of those, because I don't need to see them operating weapons and vehicles and things like that. They've done enough. It's time to just stop with the monkeys. But I don't know if that movie ends up being a big smash hit. Maybe it, get some more hype behind this. I think that it's going to be some time before we can form a real opinion. We're going to have to see some casting choices before anybody can really have some serious thoughts or concerns on this, outside of like, hey, they probably should not make this live action because it's going to look cheap. It's like when I'm not an anime guy. I've said that before, but I'm at least familiar with One Piece. I've seen pictures of One Piece, drawn as the manga, and I've seen the anime. I've seen some still images and stuff like that, and then like looking through Netflix and seeing that they did that live action version, it just looks cheap. Like it just doesn't look right. It just looks like people doing cosplay. It just looks like I'm, a higher budget bunch of friends that would normally go to like an anime convention, or just like, hey, we got a green screen, we made a One Piece fan film. Like that's what it's going to come across as. I don't see a way where this is live action. It doesn't look cheesy as hell. But I don't know. I digress. I guess we'll see what happens with it. I'm not a Zelda fan, so I have no, I have no dog in the fight or dog in the hunt or whatever the hell the saying is with this. Tires in the iron fire, whatever it is. I have no interest in this, to be honest. I just don't care. Like, it's not a movie I'm going to go and see. I don't like the Zelda games. I have no connection to the franchise, so it's whatever for me. But I'm sure some people out there are probably pretty upset hearing this. And maybe there's some people that are really excited about it. You never know.
If they get Machine Gun Kelly to play Zelda, they're gonna have to get somebody that can kind of balance him out. I'm looking at Meryl Streep to play a Goomba.
Yeah, I think Meryl Streep is a Goomba would be a good choice for Zelda. That makes sense. All right. Last up this week, the new Steam Deck is out, it's coming out. People have their hands on it. There's been footage online for influencers and the sort, but they're doing an OLED Steam Deck. Comes with better battery life, 1 terabyte of storage, a little bit larger screen, but it is still physically the same size, so not a different casing to it. 90 hertz refresh rate, which is up from 60 hertz. 1000 nit peak brightness, up from 400 nits. So better color gamut, HDR OLED, all that good stuff. It seems like a nice little upgrade for people that have an existing Steam Deck that maybe want something a little bit nicer, or this might be enough to draw people in that don't own one. It's not for me. I'd be more curious in 3-4 years when they do a Steam Deck 2 to see what that can do. I always think like, oh, I'd love to have a handheld system and lay down and play games, but that's just not going to happen. I don't, I'm not one of those people that lays down in bed and watches TV. When I go to bed, I'm not sitting on my phone until I go to sleep. I don't play video games in bed. If I'm going to lay down on the couch and play a handheld, well, I can just play it on the TV. Like, there's just no reason for me to have a handheld. But it's one of those things that's like, I'd love to have one of those and mess around with it. I don't travel, where if I'm traveling, then I'm driving. So it's not like I'm playing this, and I don't have plane money. So it's not like I'm a passive participant in travel. I am actively, got my hands on the wheel most of the time, at least. So it doesn't really appeal to me in terms of something that it's like, oh, I'd like to go and purchase one of these. But I think it's a cool little upgrade. They've said that they're still years away from having a sequel that's just not technologically possible right now with what they want to do. And I believe them when they say that. I think that they probably want to push this thing as hard as possible with how successful it's been. Asus did their ROG Ally, their competitor to it. There's the Ioneo stuff, and none of them have really been able to topple what Steam has done. I know people still have complaints about the Steam Deck. It's not perfect, but I think that those complaints certainly outweigh anything that the competitors have been able to come up with. So I think that this is going to do probably pretty well for them. The one thing I will say, it does seem like, because people have had some questions about the OLED screen, it does seem like it is the exact same screen as the Switch OLED. There's not too many people manufacturing small scale OLED screens like this, so it is most likely the same screen in the Switch OLED. So if you have a Switch OLED, you might have some type of idea of how things are going to look running on this. Although I would say that this being able to do 90 hertz and being more powerful, it's not going to be quite apples to apples. But it might give you a little bit of an idea of what to expect. But that's going to wrap up the show. We kind of got through everything fairly quick this week. We're efficient over here, but let's talk about what's coming out on the channel this week. So obviously podcast today. Tomorrow I am hoping to have the RoboCop Rogue City video finally up. I've been putting that off. Wednesday, going to stream some Call of Duty is the plan, and on Friday should have a look at Mario RPG on the Switch. That is my all-time favorite game. It is getting remade, and I am curious to dive into it. So we will have a look at that. That video will be up on Friday morning. I posted a little teaser, a little preview on the community tab on the channel. The next Perfect Reload video, the animated ones, well underway. I'm actually making more progress at it than I thought. So I've been churning away at that. I got another section done today. I edited another section today. So making some good headway with that. I would actually say that's going to be out within the next couple of weeks if everything goes well, unless something happens. I feel like I am getting a little sick, so maybe that'll drive me away from being able to work on it as much. But to be honest, I am sure I will still continue to work on it, even if I have a little bit of a cough and a sore throat. So I'm excited to get another one of those done. I was going to be very upset with myself if I only got one of those videos out this year. So I'm happy that I'm getting the motivation to really dive into it. And, I wasn't super thrilled with the way the last one came out. It really was just one of those things where it's like, I just have to get this out for my own personal sense of, pride or ego or whatever it is. I just have to get this out. So I don't think it was my best work. I think this one is a little bit more of a return to form with the first two ones that came out. So I think if you like those, then I think you'll like this one. So that's all. That's all for me. Christian, you got anything to say before we head out?
My plans for the week? When you go to bed tonight, I'm gonna take the fridge out of the kitchen and put it in a creek. I don't really have a reason for doing this, but I've been slacking on giving you a hard time lately. I've been off my game a little bit. Having some issues in the romance department. You know what I mean?
I didn't ask you what your I guess I did ask you what your plans are. Don't take the fridge. There's stuff in there that we need. It keeps my water cold. Don't take my fridge from me, man. It's all I got left. I don't have anything else. You destroyed everything. This is my life. All right, everybody, take it easy, and we'll see you again real soon.